Mm. All right, welcome everybody. And give folks a few minutes to join. Looks like we've got some folks jumping in already. But thank you so much for joining today. We are going to hear from Andy with Slatted about upcycled hardwoods, the Amazon, and the aesthetics of sustainability. And before we go ahead and get started with today's product presentation, we're going to do a quick little intro while folks are joining from my colleague Helen. Helen's here with Acelab. We're helping out with hosting today's event. So we're going to show you a few tips and tricks for using Acelab, a little preview of what's to come, and how to connect with Slatted on Acelab. So if you have questions after today's event, you can head over to our platform to connect with them there. All right, Helen, feel free to take it away whenever you're ready, and then we'll go ahead and get started with today's presentation.
Sounds good. Thanks, Bo. Hey, everyone. I'm Helen. I'm the Director of Architect Experience here at Acelab, and I essentially work with firms to get y'all set up and find ways to tailor the software for what you need. I'm going to start off with what you can expect after this webinar is concluded. Myself or my colleague Evelyn will be reaching out, and we will be creating a conversation for you, which you can access via here, your workspace in the top right. You can hit conversations. You won't have 170. That's just for me. But we're going to start a conversation with Andy here and his team based on the information that you're looking for, whether that's product lit or lead times, price quotes, sample, whatever that information might be. We will start a conversation for you there. So keep an eye on your inbox, because you'll get an email alerting you to the fact that we've set up that conversation. You can also reply directly from that email as well, so you don't even have to leave your inbox to connect here with Andy. One other thing too, if you're looking for their products, you can always type in the brand name. Make sure you have brand selected here. And then you can jump into their page. Here you can see their beautiful product and a little bit more information about it, as well as the products that we have available on Acelab. Then you can save these into either general research, your firm library, or your projects themselves. So you can see here a lot of really gorgeous stuff. We're very excited to have Andy here today. And last but not least, I do also want to offer y'all something special that's coming up. So right now, if I was to save some of these great products into a project folder, I'd be able to then generate a comparison. So this currently exists in Acelab. It allows you to see all the products side by side. We give you kind of all the high level information. If BIM, CADs, or specs are publicly available too, you'd see them here. So this happens already in the platform across all the different products, but our team basically decides what parameters are important based on whether you're looking at windows, cladding, etc. And then we put all this information side by side for you. So saving you multiple Google tabs, lost bookmarks, all that jazz that can happen. I'll just scroll through quickly, showing you again all the different ways that we kind of put all this information together for you. As well as certifications at the bottom. So this we currently have. What's coming out in the next 2 to 3 weeks, but only for certain folks, is this. This is the ability to generate your schedule also within Acelab. So all those products that you save as a comparison, they will then auto-populate over here across the category type. And all that will be here. You can keep track of your approvals, all kinds of information you can add, and then you can export this too. So the idea here is that you are saving products into your project folder, you're able to compare them, and then you're able to kind of keep track of approvals and then export this into your drawing sets directly. So really aiming to take you to a very kind of specific workflow. Everything's here for you all the way through. On the heels of this, we're also going to have a spec planner come out here. And this is also the products that you save. You'll have the specs kind of ready to go. Unlike the schedules I just shared with you, which I think is pretty fully formed and you can just take it and there you go. This you probably will still have to do some editing in, but this is all where we're going. So if you're interested, please go ahead and hit yes on that demo, because we're only offering this to 100 firms in the US. And otherwise you'll have to wait until September to be able to have this kind of easy documentation. So I look forward to seeing y'all there. And yeah, thanks, Andy. Thanks, Bo, for letting me be here today.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Helen. All right, we're going to leave that poll up for another few minutes or so. So yeah, please feel free to say yes on that poll if you're interested in getting a demo, signing up for early access to some of our latest releases. All right, Andy, whenever you feel ready, go ahead and share your screen. I also just want to remind all of the folks in the audience that we are going to have some time for Q&A. And if we don't have time to get to your question, we'll have a record of it. So please feel free to submit any questions throughout today's presentation to the Q&A. That'll ensure that if we aren't able to get your question live, we'll have a record of it to follow up with you after today's event. And if you have a question that you'd like to ask out loud, feel free to raise your hand and we can unmute you and you can ask that question out loud. You don't have to turn your video on, so I promise it's not too scary. But we would love to hear from you today and have some kind of open dialogue during today's webinar. All right. Andy, let me know if you're having any trouble with the screen share.
Here, let's see. It wants me to quit and reopen. I don't know if that's going to be a, let's see. Let me just try here. There we go.
There we go. Looks like we can see your screen.
How's that?
That looks great.
All right.
Awesome.
Okay, well, thanks a lot, Bo and Helen. Everybody, great to meet you all, and thanks for your interest in Slatted. Let's see. Just have to learn to advance my slides. Let's see. Oh, I'm at the bottom of the presentation. Okay, everyone close your eyes for a second here. Okay. So my name's Andy Kjellgren. I've been in the reclaimed wood world for over 20 years, primarily based in New York City in the Northeast. We've focused a lot of our efforts in New York and Boston, where these types of where I think designers that are reaching out for extreme sustainability tend to be based in urban areas, but hopefully, as we continue, more and more interest in finding alternative products to the things that we've been specifying for years. So we're really our reason for being is to offset the use of forested hardwoods in built projects, plain and simple. Any way we can do that, we're always looking for ways. So we've developed, a series of products that can offset the use of forested woods. But then we're also kind of advisors and consultants in terms of understanding, an approach to a project and how to maximize your wood sustainability. So we're really, better sources. Really love to work with designers that are passionate about Earth First work, and then our belief in preserving what's left of the Amazon and the rest of the old growth forests around the planet is really our premier reason for being. So just a little roadmap for today's discussion. We're gonna tell you a few amazing facts about trees. We're going to review why the Amazon is so essential and why a healthy forest on the planet is so good for mitigating climate change. We're going to discuss the ways that the Amazon is in distress currently. The natural biophilic attraction to wood that all of us as humans possess. We're gonna go through in a little bit more detail about alternatives to forested hardwoods, and then we'll also talk about some of the new aesthetics of sustainability. So things we need to consider to move into more sustainably sourced materials and some of the give and takes that are required. This here, let's see. So, the Amazon is considered the lungs of the planet. we all hear these things kind of nonstop, but a few facts about the Amazon: 400 billion trees, so it's sequestering the largest amounts of CO2 of any kind of singular entity. 120 billion tons of carbon sequestered per year, and so that's 3 years worth of human emissions. We hear a lot about carbon sequestration. We don't hear a lot about how trees kind of modulate climate in kind of microclimates. So trees, through transpiration, they take water up through the soil, and then they release it into the atmosphere. And so that water vapor acts as a very effective cooling mechanism because of evaporative cooling. It sends that moisture into the immediate atmosphere, which then seeds the clouds, and then they will kind of recycle that moisture in the form of rain. So a forest of the magnitude of the Amazon is generating 45% of its total precipitation. So it's really this kind of self-sustaining organism that is really doing more than its share to mitigate or to keep the Earth in a great place. The problem is that this cycle is starting to show signs that it's wearing out. Let's see here. So we hear a lot about the Amazon is getting to its tipping point. And what that means is basically the Amazon is getting kind of sliced and diced into many smaller tropical rainforests. And so when you start to add edges around those smaller forests and start to really chop them up, you lose the benefits that come with a mass of rainforest like we see in the historic Amazon. So as we start to cut things up, the processes break down. The mechanisms begin to kind of fall apart, and the forest just doesn't take care of itself like it has been. So that's why we see a movement from kind of tropical rainforest into more like a savanna, drier climate that is going to require more water and not less. And some of the reasons for this happening are cattle. So cattle is being raised on the Amazon forest. They're clear cutting forest to raise cattle. They plant soybeans, and then there's also the incentive of timber harvesting. So those three drivers are really some of the biggest reasons that the Amazon is struggling right now. So we're going to primarily talk about the wood aspect. Wood, humans have a natural biophilic affinity to wood. You know, it's a surface and a material that makes us kind of inherently calms us down, slows our heart rate when we're surrounded. I'm sure many of you understand and are very versed in biophilia, and wood being one of the most common architectural biophilic elements that we have. Surrounding yourself with wood in the built environment is shown to, you know, reduce stress, all positive effects. People stay in jobs where they're surrounded by natural materials. So there are more and more studies that show just how important biophilia is to the built environment. And so wood, one of the main and primary suppliers of these biophilic elements, is the topic of what we're discussing. So wood has, many structural, is great to build with, very easy to build with, easy to manipulate. It actually provides temperature modulation within a microenvironment, so things don't get too hot or too cold because of the microstructure and the pore structure in wood. It can modulate microclimate and really kind of tends to keep a space a little bit more even keel. You would notice it maybe, if you sit on a wooden bench versus sitting on a steel bench versus sitting on even a recycled plastic lumber bench. Wood just it's a poor conductor, and so it doesn't collect heat like some other materials do. So I'm preaching to the choir. I'm sure it's an amazing material, and we're gonna see if we can figure out how to keep it in the forest while it's there. So it's really essential that because of all these reasons, it's essential that we try to reduce the pressure and the demand on the Amazon. As I said, in my 22 years of working with architects, I know that specifying material primarily comes from aesthetic choices and performance choices. And there's a lot of information out there. So it's difficult for architects really to sift through all the facts about where materials come from. But because of the state of the Amazon, our job is to really try to educate architects to make good choices when it comes to specifying hardwoods. The timber industry, kind of like McDonald's tells you that hamburgers come from a garden, the timber industry kind of, makes it sound like the forest is just there to provide wood for the humans. And, obviously, that's not true. And we need to keep these trees where they are so that they can perform their amazing, duties as climate stabilizers. I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time moving my slides, and I'm going to go back because I missed In Praise of Trees, and I can't miss that one. So trees, just to talk briefly about carbon sequestration. Trees take light, water, and CO2, and they absorb it, and they turn it into sugar and energy and wood. So this is the process known as photosynthesis. And fringe benefit of photosynthesis is that these trees also give off oxygen as kind of almost a waste product of this photosynthesis. So as mammals, we appreciate the oxygen, we need it, and we know how important it is. Carbon sequestration is a term that's thrown about a lot. Trees are great at sequestering carbon, at holding it. And as long as that wood is either growing or sitting in a building, that carbon is sequestered. A living tree continues to sequester carbon, and actually more and more carbon as it ages. But a benefit of using, say, mass timber buildings or just using wood in built projects is that carbon stays sequestered into perpetuity. And in our world, where we're always looking for new sources of reclaimed or upcycled materials, we can take that sequestration and hold it sacred, take off just a little bit of the wood and move it into the next project with the carbon continued to be sequestered. So a beautiful process that we need to continue. Let's see. I mentioned the releasing of water vapor, and trees actually communicate. They're finding more and more that trees communicate via a fungal or mycorrhizal network in the roots, and it's a very symbiotic relationship. So trees can communicate both with other trees of the same species or across species through these fungal networks. And the fungal network, all it asks in return is 30%. It takes 30% of the tree's sugar production. So we're really starting to understand that trees can send out distress signals, and communicate with other trees. They can send distress signals about drought, about disease, about insect attacks. And so that's kind of mind-blowing. I think that's kind of new research that is helping people understand how sacred trees are and how it's really essential that we really drive the industry into a place where we leave those trees, particularly tropical hardwoods, in the forest so they can do their thing and take care of us in the long term. So for architects, that requires a little more homework, a little more digging, maybe some compromises on aesthetics, which we'll cover in a second. But it's really essential. And so that's why we're here. Okay, thank you. So yeah. So the illegally logged Brazilian timber problem. The issue is that there's such a large industry around importing tropical hardwoods. We didn't realize for years that clear cutting and taking these trees was such a big problem. We didn't realize it in this country when we cut the redwoods off the West Coast to make fruit boxes. You kind of get into a place where you think that the source is infinite, and we're seeing that it's not, and that the diminishing sources have real effects on the planet. So the problem is that discerning between kind of responsibly forested tropical hardwoods and illegally harvested tropical hardwoods is virtually impossible. And there are, unfortunately, some characters that mix, certified wood with uncertified wood. And anyway, what we have is kind of a mess. And say 60 to 80% of imported tropical hardwoods it's estimated that amount of tropical hardwoods are illegally logged in the Amazon. So kind of shocking, and just underscoring the urgency of this problem, I think. So one of the problems is that the market is reluctant. People are making a lot of money on illegal timbers. They're easy to get. They're very inexpensive. I mean, if you look at what you're getting, if you buy ipe from one of these tropical hardwood importers, if you look at that comes from an 800-year-old tree. These mature trees are often 500 to 800 years old. And so if you have, say, a square foot of ipe flooring, that's an 800-year-old product. And it's the hardest wood. Literally, ipe is the hardest wood on the planet. So you have those two factors. You're thinking to yourself, it's probably $1,000 a square foot, because it's 800 years old and it's the hardest material on the planet. But no, it's actually $450 a square foot. So how does that work? It doesn't work. It doesn't hold water. So as we go, if we continue to scrutinize sources, and it starts to make sense that somebody's making money off this, that means that somebody is really not. And that's somebody who's getting kind of messed up in the process are typically, the indigenous people that own the land, and the planet. So so you all can lead the way into the future. Just we all hold hands and boldly move forward, and don't give ourselves an option to specify Amazon hardwoods. We just take that option off the table. When people say just use ipe, we tell them, 800-year-old tree and hardest wood on the planet doesn't equal $450 a square foot. There's a problem there. So let's stay away from that problem. So companies like Slatted and many other companies in the upcycled and reclaimed wood industry are striving to always uncover new sources of post-consumer reclaimed wood, and then reuse those in new projects. So with that kind of motivation, we can definitely supply all the material that is needed into the future. So a couple options. The way Slatted approaches the project is the first question we're going to ask your team is there existing material on site that could be reworked into, reused into a new application? That's the most innovative, the greatest story. Really, it's kind of the lowest hanging fruit when you're looking for wood. Look to your job site and see what can be reused. Post-consumer upcycled hardwoods, that's our core competency. We do teak from Southeast Asia, reclaimed teak. We do reclaimed ulen from Indonesia. There's 4 million board feet of reclaimed ulen available. There's more than that reclaimed teak. So just all that to say, we want you not to be concerned about material, about availability. There was, back in the day, before the reclaimed wood world was so kind of mature, often it was this, dribs and drabs here and there about what was available. Now the industry has grown up. Now we can supply whatever you need. So there's also domestic softwoods, which, they're faster growing. You're not shipping them around the planet. So a couple positives there, but they tend to not be as interesting maybe as hardwoods. Kjellgren and AIA have shaken up the industry, especially when it comes to exterior woods. Those are softwoods, typically South American grown radiata pine that is either heat treated or vinegar treated. And that kind of renders the wood impervious to weathering outside. So it's a great material, offsetting the use of, say, ipe, forested hardwood decking and siding, and it's been a real a boon to the industry. Black locust is a domestic wood, fast growing. A lot of people talk about it because it's local, fast growing, not expensive. Excuse me. It has some issues. It can be unstable, but again, these are early conversations in a project where we brainstorm and we try to figure out the best path for the project. So Slatted can help you kind of suss out the best direction to move forward. We don't sell black locust, Kjellgren, or Trex, and that's okay. We don't need to sell every project. We need to educate every project. So what we call the aesthetics of sustainability are kind of the trade-offs when you are using, forested lumber. It doesn't have signs of prior use, doesn't have nail holes. It can tend to be more uniform. And here's a misnomer, as architects often tell me, well, new wood is more even tones. It's really not. It's there's a lot of waste in new wood. There's a lot of sorting, and when you're veneering a piece, you can get a lot of square footage out of one tree. So the natural variation from tree to tree is really the same in nature as it is in a barn. So we really don't agree with the fact that that tonal range is greater with reclaimed material. It's just that we don't sort as much, and we really want you to use more of the resource, work that into your project, hopefully in a celebratory way, so that there's less waste, and that's just a better story. So this picture here, you can see there's we typically use marine grade epoxy to fill character. This is a bolt hole or just a sign of prior use, something that happened to this piece of wood. You fill it with black epoxy, we finish it, and then forever that sign of prior use can tell the story of the wood. So it's kind of like a certification built into it. FSC certification of new wood, new wood is difficult to recognize when you're looking at a final project, but the proof is kind of in the pudding. When you use reclaimed wood and you fill and finish it in a beautiful way, the consumers or the folks that are using the place, that surrounded by the wood, can read the story right in the wood. So that's something that new wood, doesn't have. So again, we're always really, our primary focus is to see if there's local wood. Sorry, take some water. To see if there's existing wood on site that could be reused. We're working on the Lower Manhattan Climate Resiliency Project, taking out the existing benches and handrails in a park in New York, refurbishing it, sanding it, refinishing it, filling it, and then putting it back into the space. It's an elegant solution. It's going to look better than new wood, and that wood should not be replaced with forested hardwoods. So beautiful project coming soon. We're in production right now. Highline has been reclaimed teak since the second phase, and Slatted just completed the latest phase. It's the 18th Street Annex at 18th and 10th Avenue, and that's all reclaimed teak. So if you look around, you can find amazing projects that are using upcycled hardwoods, and my advice is just go boldly forward, and you won't regret it. This is some of the ulen in Indonesia, from Indonesia, post-consumer reclaimed. An amazing resource. Decking runs about $18 to $20 a square foot. So, you're probably paying 12 to 15 for new hardwoods, unless you go somewhere and you find that 450 ePay, which definitely exists. So we work, again, I think we've shown you a bit of how we work, but sustainability and this philosophy is really why we're here. So we're guided by equity. We really want to consider folks that supply our tropical hardwoods in Asia, Southeast Asia. We care to treat them very fairly, to really develop a mutually beneficial relationship that's not exploitative, and to grow, their economies and their wealth as we get projects into your projects, get wood into your projects. So that's a very important aspect of our being. Obviously, the ecosystem is important, and economies, as I mentioned. So again, and I feel like I'm just repeating myself, but we want to push the sustainable limits of wood in your project. So is there anything on site that can be used? If not, and if it's not aesthetically pleasing, that opens up a whole world of upcycled hardwoods and other products. But that's the question we're asking. We're working with wonderful leaders in the industry on flagship projects. So I've been doing this for 22 years. The industry is definitely moving in this direction, and I always say, you don't want to clad your building in baby seal fur, because if you put ePay on your building today, in 20 years when there's no more ePay, and it's kind of a reminder of what we did to the Amazon, you can save yourself a big headache and kind of some embarrassment by really pushing the envelope right now. and our products by nature are circular. So that is a big concept right now in terms of sustainability, is circularity. We have an interior wall paneling product that is easily demountable, and you can take it with you when you move, or we have a buyback program, and we will literally buy back any material that we sell, so that we can then reuse it in the next project. So we carry that theme everywhere that we can. This is this is some of the ullin, the center picture, and the picture on the left. That's weathered ullin. It weathers to something that looks like elephant skin. It's really amazing. If you oil it, it goes jet black, so naturally black, and it goes very quickly. So I had a piece. We tested it last summer. Within 30 to 45 days, it went from freshly milled to nearly jet black. So if you're looking for a product that's naturally black for a exterior siding, could be interior too, but ullin is something to explore, and many other species behind that. So we really want to develop this kind of advisory relationship with firms. The amazing story of where this material comes from sells itself to your clients. So if you're in meetings and you tell the ePay story, and then you tell the story of upcycled wood, your clients get very excited. I've sold reclaimed teak to Goldman Sachs. So companies that do some bad in the world are very excited to do some good in the world. So that's an aspect that can add to your kind of selling process, and really get your clients, all the stakeholders, excited about the projects that you're working on. And really about celebrating, wealth creation for the folks that typically own these resources. The building demolition, they have an amazingly valuable resource, and they should be rewarded for preserving their own forests and then using this resource in an innovative way to move it into new projects. So we are celebrating the wealth creation for our suppliers. So I wanted to end with a quote. E.O. Wilson just always says the right thing. There can be no purpose. I wasn't going to read, but I'll just read it. There could be no purpose more inspiriting than to begin the age of restoration, reweaving the wondrous diversity of life that still surrounds us. So it's an exciting frontier. It's well developed. It's no longer, it's a real industry, and you can move your projects at will into that kind of an industry, and be confident that you're going to end up with really an amazing finished product that you can be proud of today and 20 years from now. So that's what I have, and we'd love to take questions if you have any, and you can find us here, and we really, as well as Acelab, and we really are excited to talk to you.
Awesome. All right. Looks like we do have a few questions. Also want to encourage folks who might have a question that feels easier to ask out loud. If you'd like to raise your hand, feel free to do that, and we can unmute you so that you can ask that question out loud. But let's start off here at the top. I think we may have covered this, but might be helpful to kind of like re-summarize it. So from Anna, I'm hoping that forested hardwoods will be defined in this presentation. Wood logged from a natural forest or wood logged from a farmed forest?
Yeah, forested hardwoods in our definition is not plantation grown. Plantation grown woods are kind of a third entity. Then you're kind of struggling for the definition of a plantation. Some plantations are legit. They've been growing, say, rubber trees, I think, in South America for 200 years. The rubber trees are not native to South America. So those are legitimate plantations. Sometimes it's a gray area between plantation and, forest. But when we use the word forested hardwoods, we're talking about going into a wild forest and harvesting these 800-year-old trees.
Okay, cool. All right, and then next, what types of forested woods should be avoided to minimize the use of illegally logged timber?
Yeah, almost the better question is, what are there any forested hardwoods that are okay to use? You know, hardwoods by definition are slow growing materials. So they, you know, it's kind of just, they all fall into that category where you're basically, it's like you're harvesting really precious resources, and you're kind of downcycling them in a way. You're taking an 800-year-old ipe tree that's sequestering carbon and giving off water vapor, and you're turning it into a floor in a restaurant. So that's kind of downcycling. So honestly, I don't, you know, there, Kumaru, ipe, anything that any hardwood purveyor, non-reclaimed hardwood purveyor has on their website is not sustainable. There are some FSC certified hardwoods. It's dubious. I don't know how you, again, I like FSC, but I don't know how you certify an 800-year-old tree as sustainably harvested. So that's my message, is really, there aren't any.
All right, awesome. And I did see another question come in about CEU credits. So just to kind of clear that up for anyone else who would be wondering, today was not an AIA CEU approved event. So there will not be credits issued for today's presentation. While we're waiting to see if there are any more questions, I'm going to go ahead and give a quick little tour how to get in touch with Slatted after today's webinar. So I did drop a link to Slatted's page on Acelab into the chat. Definitely check the chat to grab that link, as well as Helen's meeting link. So if you missed the quick intro, Helen gave a little introduction on using Acelab, and if you're interested in learning some more, you can book some time with her to get a free demo. While we're here, I'm going to really quick just show anyone who might have missed the intro. So if you grab that link to head to Slatted on Acelab, you can use this contact button to get in touch with Andy directly. You can start a message, upload any project details that you would like to share. And this works really well as a way to keep your organization with your communication and your product research all in one place. So yeah, feel free to grab that link, use this to explore more about their products. You can head over to their product pages. You can save these to your projects, and you can open up any one of these products to access some downloads, see some more images, view some product descriptions and all of that good stuff. All right. It looks like we do have another question. Could you speak more about the types of buildings that are being demolished to provide the sources for upcycled wood, and how you are ensuring that cultural resources stay in the community?
I got to say, this is one of my favorite questions since I've been doing this, because it's kind of the opposite, you know, it's the other shoe dropping. So yeah, the way we look at it is that now my mind's going to go blank. That I shouldn't have given such a big intro to that question. Now I'm spacing out. Okay. So progress. Upcycled hardwoods are kind of just like oxygen is a byproduct of photosynthesis. Upcycled hardwoods are often a byproduct of you know, progress. So we're taking wood out of structural members, typically out of like tobacco drying sheds, and you know, yeah, traditional homes. We look for large structures that have large timbers. That's the most efficient way to go. And these buildings are being taken down regardless. They're being taken down for progress. No one wants a wooden barn anymore. No one builds a wooden barn anymore. They build, you know, metal structures that are efficient and can be conditioned. And that's true for residential projects. No one wants to live in a kind of traditional house, no matter where they are, when they can live in air conditioning. So that's kind of how we look at it. And so it's kind of just a byproduct of progress. We're we're not forcing people to take down structures. But it is, I do think of it like a give and take. You have to borrow from the cultural resources, as you say, in order to keep the Amazon intact. So as long as you have representative samples of those cultural resources, as long as you have beautiful examples of traditional houses, you know, you have to make a decision about where you're going to get your materials, and that's kind of, you know, those are your two choices. There are drawbacks to both, but we think that that leaving the Amazon intact is better than, you know, keeping all of the cultural resources intact. If I have a second, Bo, I'll tell a quick story about sourcing wood for a project in Hawaii years ago. They wanted teak shingles, reclaimed teak shingles, and they had a very high spec. They needed to be very specific type of shingle and very tight. And so where we found these were in rice pounding. Every family in Southeast Asia back in the day had a rice pounding board, and they would take the rice, pound it, winnow it, and then they would get the white rice. So, but now machines years ago have replaced that. And so now every family had a rice pounding board that was made of great quality wood. And so we ended up sourcing many of those to do this project. And it definitely comes to mind. You're thinking, well, these are really a beautiful story, and is it okay to take that kind of resource? But, you know, ultimately we think as long as we have a few of those rice pounding boards left that we can understand history with, then we just take the rest and leave the Amazon.
Mhm.
Sorry, that was long. I love that question. Sorry, I was so long-winded, but
No, that was a great answer. And I think, yeah, it's a really important question to be asking. So I appreciate you taking the time to kind of, you know, answer it in fullness. Because yeah, I think it's, you know, it's something that we all kind of have to weigh when we're making decisions around sustainability, around, you know, kind of cultural relevance of buildings. So yeah, thank you, Anna, for asking that question. And thank you, Andy, for a really thoughtful response.
Yeah. If I could tag on another corollary to that is, you know, we're sourcing wood in Southeast Asia, like I said. So a lot of times architects want local materials, and we love local also. So you have to understand that, you know, what are the carbon costs of shipping wood from Southeast Asia to the US. And if you dig into those, you know, putting wood on a freighter, on a ship, is really much more efficient than trucking it, like 16 times more efficient. So ballpark, it's about the same carbon investment to get reclaimed wood from Southeast Asia and ship it to New York versus trucking wood from the West Coast. It's about the same. So just another part of that question, and something that we encounter often.
Yeah, definitely. Awesome. All right. Well, it looks like we don't have any other open questions. So I'll give folks another moment or two to let us know if you do have any questions in the moment. There is also going to be a quick survey as you leave today's webinar. So if you have any questions that come up as you're kind of heading out, feel free to enter them there on that post-event survey, and we can follow up with you after today's webinar. It's super helpful for us if you could fill out that survey and let us know, even if you don't have any questions, any feedback about the presentations, we can keep bringing you content that's relevant to you. And then other than that, just a reminder to please grab any of the links from the chat that you might need, so that you can use those after today's event to get in touch with Helen from Acelab or to get in touch with Andy from Slatted, so that you can get all of your questions answered. All right. Cool. Well, if there are no more open questions, then I would just love to thank everybody in the audience so much for attending today and for asking such thoughtful questions. Really appreciate your attendance and your engagement today. And thank you so much, Andy, for a wonderful presentation. I really enjoyed it.
Thanks, Bo. Yeah, thanks everybody. That was great.
Awesome. All right. Have a good one, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye.